Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca Talk. I'm your host, Gabriel Quiroga, here in the Spanish capital. And in today's show, one of our esteemed patrons, Troy Cadotte, is joining me for our conversation today about the victory at the Camp Nou. Troy, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you?
Very well, especially after today's performance.
Yes.
I think, obviously, in our WhatsApp group, reading Twitter and everything, I think everyone is definitely on a high. And I'm doing well. So I'm really excited to talk to this match with you and get into the nitty gritty. But before we do that, I want to make an announcement again, because I know I did it in our Barca Talk Cafe episode, but obviously we've been on break and so forth. And I just kind of want to announce our Barca Talk weekend that's coming up May 20th weekend, 21st to the 23rd. We are going to Barcelona to go see the Villarreal match. And so, we're going to do a meet and greet on the Saturday. We're going to go to the match on Sunday. I know that you are going to try to make it, obviously, with COVID and all these different things. We'll see how it goes, but just kind of want to make that announcement and really excited to do this again, heading to Barcelona to meet up with our patrons and other, it's open to anyone who wants to come to the match. And I'm really looking forward, especially Troy, if we continue to play like this and the Camp Nou is alive like it was today, because I can't remember the last time the Camp Nou was like that.
Yeah, no, I'll be there. I'm looking forward to it. And certainly if we get a game like we did today, I mean, that's just the icing on the cake for this event. So absolutely.
Yeah, and I think we did it a couple of years ago when Brian was still part of the show, and we had a small turnout, but it was a lot of fun just to get to meet people outside the stadium. With the kind of rough schedule for this is going to be meet on Saturday, do like a meet and greet type of thing, hang out at a bar on Saturday night, go to the match, do a live show, and go from there. And so I'm really looking forward, because there are some patrons in our community that have never been to Barcelona before, and they were asking questions. And so that's, to me, it's almost kind of like bringing new brothers to the Camp Nou, sharing our experience. I'm really excited to share that with them. So we'll see. Again, that's going to be May 21st. We're going to take a quick break, and after that, we're going to dive into the match from today. So as we've been talking about, I know that our WhatsApp community was on fire today. Twitter was on fire today with just the positivity. Finally, we were able to see some good things. I kind of want to start off with the Camp Nou. I think, watching the match on TV and just seeing the electricity jump out of the screen. I can't remember the last time the Camp Nou was that lit in a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while. I think maybe actually one of the matches where I joined you on this show was the last time that there was some, excitement in the stands, like even before the game, right? So somebody was sharing, I think Mariano was sharing some videos of, with guys or fans outside with the smoke, and they were chanting, and there was a buildup on the outside of the stadium before the game. Certainly this was a big game, and we're going to talk about it more, today, about how pivotal this game was. But inside it was certainly electric. The chanting was going on. It was almost packed. I don't think it was a sellout, but pretty close to it. And I think that the overall feeling from what you could see, being at home and seeing it on TV, from the buildup to the pregame to what we saw in the match, was, I think everyone knew that this was a very big game for us.
Yeah, and the other thing too, like you said, it's not at full capacity. There's still COVID restrictions, so the official attendance was about 74,000 people. But to me, especially with the amount of goals that happened, I think that really electrified the crowd, because it was one of those things I was really worried about. Obviously, getting down 1-0 early was how the team was going to respond. I think the crowd did a great job of giving some positive energy and really helping the players on the field just to get over that hump and just kind of get that belief. Because honestly, I can't remember the last time where I've kind of come out of the game and I said, wow, these are really strong, positive things coming out of this. And I just wanted to make a note of the ambiance, because again, when I was watching on TV, like, it was, again, the chanting, you could just heard the murmurs, like where people were actually engaged into the match, and they weren't just, just there just to be there. So I thought that was something. Were there any surprises for you with the starting 11 that Xavi rolled out today?
No, there weren't any surprises. I mean, maybe with Traore, perhaps, but he's been playing, right? And like I put in our notes, when we signed Torres, the very first game after that, Xavi put him in on that, that right wing position. So we knew that Xavi wasn't really scared of doing that. So So maybe if they're, if you want to get, detailed on it, maybe that might have been a surprise. But outside of that, with everything else in there, no, there wasn't any surprises for me, at least, in that starting 11.
I thought that Adama starting was a surprise for me, just because I thought, just to be a little bit more conservative, to see Luke De Jong starting with Ferran Torres on the right. I thought that's how it was
Yeah.
going to roll out. But as we've seen, obviously, Xavi has more access to, leading the practice, and he went with Ferran Torres up the middle with Adama on the right side. And I thought that was an interesting move because, we were talking on Barca Talk Cafe on Friday that we might be seeing, and we also got questions as well about this, might be seeing Adama coming on the wing, like
Yeah.
to spell Dani Alves and that. So I thought this was going to be an opportunity for that because, using his speed and physicality, especially against a team like Atleti. Let's get into just kind of I think, for me, I really want to dive into Adama because that to me, I guess I just didn't know how he was going to fit in. I mean, that's just really honestly how it's going to be. And I was watching this with some friends, and I just remember the girls commenting immediately, "Wow, who's the Hulk?" Right?
Yeah.
And I have to say, Troy, as I talked on Friday, I was very skeptical of how this was all going to fit. But again, the DNA, it's in there.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the last time that right side felt unblocked in a long time. Like, even though Adama's not known for his elusive passing, that's not a
Yeah.
thing. But man, the combination he had with Dani was like they've been playing for 5 years. And
Yep.
if this is the things that are going to come with him just being on that right side, look out. I
Yeah.
can get really excited about this.
Yeah. Yeah. And how well he blended with everybody was probably the biggest surprise for me when we're talking about him, because usually it doesn't happen. You can see some bad passes because somebody makes a run or somebody makes a movement. Of course, he's not used to it. He hasn't played a game with these guys. He's only been in training for days, technically with these guys. So how well he blended was really a big surprise. But quite honestly, he was making the plays out there, and maybe it's because maybe they were just following his lead is what made that work so well, because he was taking that defender on one. He gave him fits from 2 minutes into the game. Like, that guy knew he was outmatched, and he was going to have a lot of problems, certainly for the rest of the game. I think when you shared the data sheet on Adama, obviously you can see the stats on him taking him one-on-one. He's very highly rated in that regard. And so that certainly wasn't, a surprise for me seeing him do that today. But his weakness is making something happen after he takes a player one-on-one, right? Making a pass. He doesn't score very much, and he has a very low percentage of successful passes once he makes that move. And today, albeit it wasn't 100%, and there's still room for improvement for him, it was much better than I expected him to do. Much better.
I mean, if I were to extrapolate this performance today, I just have to say that maybe just obviously the forwards of Wolves are just not as good, because the crossing for me was pivotal.
Yeah.
And to me, when I was watching him, I could see that he's been seasoned in the Premier League because he did one move, got enough space, cross in, right? And they weren't just crosses, just cross. They were like actually landing on people. And I think that for me was a surprise. I was commenting that when we were watching the match. And that's pivotal because he made the right decisions, right? Like when it was time to do 1-2 with Dani Alves, he did it. When it was time to take a 1v1, he did it. And it was just more successful because of obviously the experience that he has playing. I mean, you can just see it. Like it almost seems like he just never left, and it's weird because I don't think we had any glimpses of this before, especially when he was at Wolves. You just never really see this. But again, maybe he just needed to come back and play with elevated players where his play was going to get elevated again, because man, like I said, he made the assist, on the Gavi thing, and it was just like he barely got enough space and was able to make a good cross. And to me, that is huge, because if he can solidify that right corner, now all of a sudden, as I've always been banging, this for the last 6 years, to have balance on both sides, and that's really important. And the team, you can see, just has confidence. So I'm wow. I mean, it was quite a revelation. And especially if he can play 90, getting to that 90 more,
Yeah.
man, just at the end of games, he's going to have more opportunities because not only is he fast, but man, again, greasing up those arms, right? Like
Yep.
it's just crazy to see a
Yeah.
play, because he reminds me of like a running back, in American football, or a
Yeah,
rugby
he
player.
does. Yeah.
And he does have quick feet. So do you have any other lasting impressions about Adama's kind of debut, re-debut with the team?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, I just was amazed that he went right to it. I mean, within minutes of the game starting, it didn't take him half a game to get into the swing of things. He went right at it. I mean, and to me, that was amazing. And then obviously the link up, like you said, it was Alves and him, and then into the middle with Torres. And we'll talk about Torres here hopefully, but they're those three linking together. Then obviously with all the other players in the middle, Gavi and some of them. Yeah, you're right. I think we finally, hopefully, I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that this wasn't, just a one-off for him. But now I hope that we have some pressure, some gameplay, some movement on that right-hand side to take some pressure off that left-hand side, which we'll talk about. It'd be super
Yeah,
important for us.
that's the thing. Xavi came out with Torres up the middle, and I think Torres did look a little lost today. I would say
Yeah.
probably he was kind of whitewashed a little bit. Again, he put Gavi up on the left. Again, so this is going to be a quandary, because if Adama plays better with Dani Alves on that right side, now all of a sudden you lose the effectiveness of Ferran Torres, right? Because it's kind of pick either one, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if Ferran can play on the left. Like, I just don't know if he's comfortable with that. Again, that's where maybe, again, it's about putting the players in the best position. I just don't know if Ferran wants to be up the middle. I don't know if that's his strongest position. Let's talk a little bit about one of the things I also saw today was a more crossing opportunities today more than ever, right? I maybe it was just the tempo of the game. I don't know. I felt there was just more directness in today's attack, and I think going forward, that's really going to be helpful. Again, I don't know if Dani Alves with his crossing, and obviously he had an assist today, but it just felt more effective than I can remember in the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 months. I don't know. Did you see anything like that where our crossing was just more effective because we were actually taking good crosses rather than just pumping it in there trying to find Luke de Jong?
Yeah. Well, I have a couple answers for your question here. So first thing, the tempo was absolutely more direct today than it probably has been in quite some time. And I know that this was a goal of Xavi's to get that tempo going. It's just taking some time for these players to understand and how to do that. And on top of that, he's mixed so many starting formations, and there was so many, I think we've started more players than anybody in La Liga this year. And so you got to start to build some cohesion amongst these players. But regardless, the tempo was absolutely there. You've probably seen me in the WhatsApp group when we're starting to sit there and we pass backwards and there's opportunity to move forward. Nothing drives me more insane than that. And today there might have been maybe 1 or 2 times where we went backwards instead of moving forwards. And normally it's like 8 to 15 times where I'm like, why are we passing the ball backwards? We should have been moving forward. We always have such a slow buildup. And I think that is the main thing that Atletico Madrid was not prepared for, was the tempo. And we absolutely must have the tempo. If we don't have tempo, it turns into a possession game where we're sitting here passing the ball back and forth and doing nothing. We're not trying to score. We're just kind of, swinging the ball from the left to right, through the midfield. And that's when we get into big time problems, when we have an errant pass and then boom, the team that we're playing against does a quick counter. Our defense is not built for that. They score on us. And traditionally, which I was really wanted to see today, what happened when they scored on us quickly. Traditionally, it takes all the wind out of our sails, and the team does not have the grit to work back from, being scored on quickly. Today, obviously, was the exact opposite, in which, again, going back to what I said in the very beginning, this was a very pivotal game for us The future's still to be seen, but a lot of things happening by that tempo.
I mean, it's a great segue because I think next we need to talk about the defense because again,
Yeah.
that's still the weak link of this team. But like you said, I think not only is it an important match because it's Atletico Madrid, it's a top 4 team, but also just seeing FC Barcelona now in 4th place on paper is something like you can see it now, right? Like
Yeah.
it's feasible now. Whereas maybe in November we were hoping that we were going to get to this point,
Yeah.
and so I think that's a really important thing, kind of visualize your goals, like this type of thing, right?
Yeah.
But let's talk about the defense because, like you just segued to that. Again, I just thought it was funny because on the feed that we were watching, they gave Jordi Alba the Budweiser Man of the Match today.
Versus
Let's
Velasco,
agree to
that's right.
let's agree to disagree because yes, he
Yep.
did score a goal. But as I put in the WhatsApp group, Jordi taketh and giveth, right? I mean, that's just what it is.
Yeah.
I don't want it to constantly hound on Jordi Alba because it is what it is, right? This is the type of thing that's going to happen. As we saw in the first goal, first attempt, goal, right? And to me, it's the idea of like lack of concentration is just what I'm seeing. And what I can't get over is the lack of concentration within 10 minutes of the opening match.
Yeah.
To me, when I played and I think about these situations in any sport, I feel like the hardest thing, is to concentrate in the 90th minute, right? When you're tired, you've struggled physically the whole match, and that's the hard part. And then all of a sudden you have to play defense on a corner kick. I understand that. But at the beginning of the match where you're fresh, you are engaged to like play, and we just continually have these errors.
Yep.
Jordi Alba, to me, with this lack of concentration, again, it's basically his lapse of spacing that leads into the fold, and then all of a sudden, Carrasco and Suarez have a link up there. And to me, again, these are the things that need to be solidified because, again, we saw that Atletico had more opportunities in the game. They could have scored a couple more goals. So, I don't want to harp more on Alba, but I also just kind of need to point that out. But, I think overall the defense played really well. Araujo had his moments. But again, like you said, it's the counters, right? And it's also knowing risk versus reward because I'm sorry, that Dani Alves red card was an awful choice for Dani Alves to do.
Yeah. A couple things on the defense, and I put in our notes, Barca has the defensive players that we have today have real troubles when the guy that they're supposed to be marking, when players have like moved around and shifted around. And on that goal, I've watched it like 10 times. I was sitting there, with my Apple TV going back and forth. It looked like, and I could be wrong, but it looked like they had a game plan for PK to really be man marking Suarez. Because a couple plays before that, if you watch, PK stepping up from that back line, he's stepping up when Suarez is getting the ball, and he actually, just possessed him a few times. But what had happened on that play is PK didn't get back in line. He stayed. He did not get back in line with the rest of the players. And what had happened is Suarez had shifted over to Elba, and then I forget who the other Atletico Madrid player was that was way wide. So they overloaded Alba's side, and PK was up too high. He was up too high. He didn't even recognize that the shift had even happened. And so by the time they move forward, PK is turning around. Araujo's got to come into the middle and actually guard the guy that PK should have been on. And Elba's out there like, pick your poison. Who am I going to go on to? And we know, once somebody's taken Elba on one-on-one, 9 out of 10 times you're going to get a good cross or you're going to score because he just doesn't have it in him, right? So, which it actually really surprised me that Atletico Madrid didn't try to do that more in the game, like overload that side because and I've said it a million times, when you have biscuits, I was going to call them Busquets, and you have Elba and PK, and they're being pushed on the defensive side. Nothing has ever happened good for us in the last 2 to 3 years. And again, that's what happened. And Araujo just couldn't, by the time he got to the player, the shot was off and there was nothing you could do. And of course, Tresagan, was slow on the movement of the ball and couldn't get in front of it as well. So that's going to be trouble. And it's when the guy that they're supposed to be marking is moving around and they overload or they switch. We don't recognize it and we don't communicate and we don't say, okay, after that, I saw a lot more our defensive players. I saw their head move going back and forth a lot more. Okay, it should have never happened in the first place. That should have, like you talked about, why? In those first 10 minutes, do we have such a problem playing defense? I don't understand it. I don't know. I don't have the answer.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I do know that they did, like I said, their heads were moving. They're looking behind them. They're moving around. When PK got out of position there, his head wasn't moving at all. He was looking straight forward. I watched it. He was looking forward. He had no idea what was happening to the left of him where Suarez and the other guy was out there. Had no idea. So I know that play was on Alba's side, but I would throw just as much blame on PK for being out of position and moving forward out of that back line. If he would have been in that back line, that guy, Yannick, would not have been as open as he would originally was for that play. And the game might have been different from there. So again, they just got to get better. But those guys aren't, I mean, again, we had talked about it for a million years. PK's getting old. Alba's getting old. Until we bring in reinforcements for that back line, Araujo can't do it all. But on that right side, until we bring in reinforcements, we're going to have that issue through the rest of this year. It's what can we do in that midfield and what can we do with that tempo and attack to keep as much pressure off them as possible. That's the only options we have.
Yeah, and the thing is, with this idea of the defense, right? I mean, it's just, to me, the biggest thing is just letting these early goals. I think that is really something that you can coach that up. Because the thing, Troy, they're not coming out with 6 forwards and we're like completely shocked.
No,
it's just a simple give and go on 2 guys on the right side. This should not be extremely difficult to dissect and see, and the thing is, again, I can't get over the conversion rate in the early 10 minutes. That's the thing. It's like you could see the like Carrasco hit it wide or close or no, but it's like a goal. It's like a perfect angled shot that goes to the goal. It's just like, wow, And I know these guys are professionals, but still, like, to have, I just, lately with the team, giving up these early goals, I just feel like the other team, the first shot, like I would love to put some data on this. I think the first shot, it feels like a 60% conversion rate because it just feels like they get the first shot, it's a goal. Like that's just how it feels.
Automatic.
And that's the thing is I think that's something that can definitely tighten up because again, in this match, like we talked about, the tempo was there for us. The goal was going to come and you build it up and you just kind of choke out Atletico sooner than we did with the 3-1, right? All of a sudden, when they had that first goal, it was like, oh God. I mean, we saw the tidal wave of emotion coming what's up from the first goal, because again, it's in the 8th minute, we are all positive about what's going to happen in this match. And then you just quickly get deflated. And again, those are kind of like those attention to details. And I understand, like, as we talked about, it's the elder players of Barca. They just don't have the speed anymore to connect as fast. And also, like you said, the head on the swivel, which I thought Xavi, for example, was going to instill more with this midfield. I still see it lacking a little bit of that. To me, when I played, I always used my head to swivel because why not, right? You always want to see where you're going to go. And I know it's a hard thing to do because, we see a lot of players in professional, levels not doing it. And so I know it's a hard skill to get at, but I just thought Xavi was going to be more of a instiller of that. So I think those are kind of the things. But all right. Enough of the negative. Let's get back to the positive, because I know, because it really was a positive result all around. I would just say the defense we still need to figure that out and just be more, concentrate earlier in the match. And I think we are trending in a way. And like I said, people on Twitter right now are just, obviously super excited because of I think mostly of the goal output, because I can't remember the last time we had a goal output like that for a long time, where like we were looking really good. So let's get into the goals. We just talked about the first Atleti goal was in the 8th minute. Carrasco scored. We just talked about that. Let's talk about the Jordi Alba. So Jordi taketh, but then he gaveth, right, on this goal. And the funny part too is that he mishit it.
Yeah,
So the mishit actually helped to make a changeup. But I have to say, like Danny Alves, at his age still, like the way he's able just to boss that right side is still
yeah,
just an incredible thing. I mean, I know he had some bad decisions today with the red card and some other like just kind of loose fouls, but for the most part, just seeing him with those crosses again with the Jordy mishit. I mean, it's funny. I don't know if on your feed did they have like the statistic where it said like the goal probability when
12%.
Jordy Alba.
Yeah,
How
yeah,
did we were
yeah,
joking around like how is that? How do you figure that out? A 12%, like
yeah.
what? How does that even happen?
I
But
don't know.
what do you think? Yeah. Well, so what do you think of the Jordi Alba goal
I
there
didn't think it
to?
was going in. I thought I saw him kick it, and I thought it was going into the stands. He kicked it. I grabbed my phone. I'm getting ready to type in our WhatsApp group. Like, why? Why would he? Why couldn't he have just controlled it and passed it off? And the next thing I know, the ball's bouncing around in the goal. I'm like, wait, what did I miss? Like that wasn't his shot, and he's over there celebrating. I'm like, no way. So of course I was glued to the TV to see the replay, and I mean, it was pure luck, pure luck. I mean, the
Yeah, yeah,
balls, it's curving, to the left in the corner, but well, I wasn't going to argue with it. I was certainly going to
yeah,
take
yeah,
it
yeah.
because, like you said, the defense had just given one up. We might as well just take one and put a score on the board. So phenomenal,
I,
and the team needed it.
yeah. That's what I
Yeah,
was gonna say. I mean, it was literally a
yeah,
minute later, basically,
yeah,
and like I said, I think that was a really good response, especially to giving up the goal. And like you said,
yeah,
like obviously the technique was there, but if he would actually connected with it, it would have gone into the stands like 60 yards away. I mean,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's good.
Went off his
Um,
shin. I mean, it didn't even
yeah,
go
yeah, but
like
that's
off
the thing.
the top of the foot. Yeah,
It went off his shin and also like it did this kind of weird like looping thing, but also like went slower too because Oblak
yeah,
thought it was going to go harder, then didn't react, and then looked and all of a sudden was in the back of the net. So we'll take it,
yeah.
right? So that's fine.
We'll take it. Yeah,
Let's go to the next goal. Obviously the Gavi header. Obviously Adama getting the nice cross. He was able to go down
yeah,
the corner and just make a nice cross. Obviously it wasn't a clean header. I mean, it helped that it kind of deflected because obviously Oblak is such a great keeper. But any
yeah,
thoughts on the cross or the setup? I mean, that's the one thing too. When I was watching the match, I was with some people, so I couldn't really dive into Twitter as much, looking
yeah,
at the formation stuff. But after I was able to kind of look at things, Gavi was there hunting and seeking for those headers, and I think
yeah,
that is important if he wants to find playing time because as we've seen, the midfield is a bit crowded. If he can just kind of come up with these opportunities, just for right now, he has such a long
yeah.
career right now. If he can just find those opportunities where he can hunt and seek for headers, take these opportunities to score, I think the future is bright for him. So, he was able to get the lead for Barca on that kind of deflected header. But mainly, I would say the Adama cross was superb.
Oh, the perfect cross. I mean, Torres was right there as well. It just went over him a little bit. I don't know if he had the best jump possible, but luckily for us, I mean, Gabi was right there, and yeah, it went off his head and then went off the defensive player and went up in the air a little bit. But I'm not so sure that if it was a clean header, it was kind of trending downward anyway, that it would have went under Oblak anyway. So he was a little bit slow to react to that anyway. So regardless, fantastic goal. I was super happy for Gavi. I've said it a million times. The kid works harder than anybody on that field. He's everywhere. He's a little pit bull out there just fighting for every, scrap that he can get. So you're right. The midfield, once everybody's healthy, the midfield does get busy. So yeah, we do need to find where can we fit these players in where they can, be on the field. Obviously, that's the most important thing, getting more game time when you're 17 years old, 18 years old. The more you can be on the field is the most important thing. But then obviously figuring out positions that can work for them. And he actually did fairly well on that left wing, compared to what we've had out there at some point in time, in the last couple of years. So I'd happily put him out there, continue with having him out there and see what he can do. But like I said,
Yeah,
it's
and
most important to have him on the field because he makes plays, he's working hard, he's chasing, he's putting pressure on, forcing bad decisions from the other players. So you have to have him on the field.
yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. And we had another follow 2 goals with Arahu coming up with a nice follow up, which was nice. He always just kind of seems to be in the right positions, especially on set plays with corner kicks and stuff. And here he was with a nice follow up. But then I kind of want to just talk really quick about the Danny Alves shot. I mean, that thing was, that's just textbook form. Like I
Yeah. Yeah.
love when you hit the ball that flush and it doesn't even spin. Like
Yeah,
that to
a
me is like,
knuckleball.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But like it's almost kind of like a controlled knuckleball. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? Where you like hit it
yeah,
so flush where like the ball doesn't spin, but also it's not knuckling all crazily, but
yeah,
it's going to the spot where you want it. And
yeah,
that Downey Elvis hit was just, I mean, I saw it coming, right? Like, I'm
yep,
sure you did too, where you kind of see, he's
yep,
like, I was like, Danny, just shoot it. And he hit it just so clean. I mean, that was such a nice shot. And then obviously the Luis Suarez goal where he kind of, got the header off another set play. Again, our
yes.
Achilles heel. And let me ask you this really quick. What is your thought? Obviously Luis Suarez scored at the Camp Nou and he, asked, he put his hands together to kind of ask for perdón, asked to say sorry.
Yeah.
What is your feeling on players coming back to their old teams and scoring on them? Do you like this gesture that they do? Like, kind of like not celebrate the goal. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, let me tell you what's really interesting about him is Atletico has so far not given him a contract extension. So of course, when you're in a position like that, the team that you're with now, and you're playing the team that you came from, but the team that you're with now, you're at the end of your career, and they're not willing to give you a contract extension right now. It'd be really and look, the team that you're playing has brought back some other ex players, i.e. Danny Alves. So certainly you don't want to come into their house, score a goal, and act like an idiot, celebrating like, you just won the World Cup or the Champions League or whatever. So, but overall, I think that's specific to him, because I would guarantee that maybe he would try to make a comeback for us, and that'd be a whole nother show we could talk about. But overall, I think it's probably pretty smart. I mean, if you left, your prior club and it was ugly, and things didn't go well, then I'm sure you'll see players, celebrate a little bit more. But he didn't want to leave. He didn't want to leave. He was
Yeah,
bored.
yeah.
I think he loved his time at Barcelona, and so he certainly is not gonna, not gonna put a big celebration up there. Celebrate with your teammates or whatever, let them, high fives, hugs, and things like that. But yeah, you don't have to turn to the stand and do the thumb in the mouth, or do the things like some of the players do. I think it's certainly respectful, and for Suarez and for a lot of players that played at Barca and moved on, I wouldn't expect anything different from them.
I say celebrate the hell out of the goal.
Yeah.
I don't care. No, because like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter to me. Like what Suarez did as a Kool-Aid, like will never be erased by scoring a goal for Atletico now. Like
Right.
to me,
Right.
his legacy is cemented, and it doesn't matter. I don't care if it's Luis Suarez or whatever the player can, when Coutinho scored for Bayern, like you have a job, like you're a professional. Like this is how
Yeah.
sports is. Like I'm not fickle to where like, when Coutinho scored for Bayern, like I just thought it was ironic,
Yeah.
that he was doing it more than anything. I wasn't
Yeah.
upset about it.
Yeah.
Obviously. So to me, I always kind of find it weird because, as fans, we are so romantic about these players. As we talked about with the contract negotiations, obviously from the outside, we would do anything to be a Barca player, right? So of
Yeah.
course we're going to say, yeah, we would lower the salary and stuff, but professional sports, man, it's a business,
Yeah.
and this is what it is. I know I don't want to sound too old man about it, but at the same time, it's like scoring goals is hard, man.
Yeah.
Celebrate, like who
Yeah.
cares?
Well, he probably
Couple
felt
lot,
bad for our defense, so he probably just didn't want to rub it in.
yeah. Last couple things. Let's talk about the referee. The
Ooh.
referee for this match was Jesus Gil Manzano, was the referee, and again, I really I'm torn about this because at the same time, yes, the referee was not that great. Obviously,
Yeah.
if we look at the stats, he's quote unquote more of a Madrid favored
Yes. Yep.
referee. Obviously, in our WhatsApp group, we had some funny memes of Florentino Perez calling the ref and all these things. So
Yeah.
of course, there's always that kind of, it's. I think that the hardest thing with this refereeing is because there's no accountability, right? So you always
Yeah.
have this kind of back in the mind type of thing. Like I've always been a proponent of these referees should do press conferences after the match. There should be a more
Yeah.
detailed report. The press should be able to ask questions. Just held them accountable. Just that's all it is about. But to me,
Yep.
one of the things that bothered me today was seeing Xavi overreact with the referee, because I want control under chaos. I want
Yeah.
control under chaos. And I know, in the heat of the battle, it's really hard, but that's when you have to be the most controlled. Like I always look at Bill Belichick, right? Like that guy is just cool as calm. He already knows 5 moves ahead, right? Yes, the referees can screw you. The refs make bad decisions. They're human. I get that. But at the same time, like in today's match, the referee did not have control of the match. It was starting to get out of hand with the cards and the fouls, especially the cleating. But man, one of the assistants got a red card, Xavi got a yellow card, and I just, to me, you have to, like, I want more control from
Yeah.
Xavi on this. And that's
Yep.
just me being like, when I look at leaders, I want the calmness. Of course, stuff happens in the match. I know it's passionate, but man, like, to me, it's like wasted energy,
Yeah.
because when in football history, Troy, did a manager yell at a referee and get a call change? Like, it just doesn't
Never.
happen, right? So, like,
Never.
why are we wasting our energy? Like,
Never.
use that energy to look at the match, be controlled, try to do what you can control, right?
Yeah.
And especially with how, I knew as soon as he was going to VAR, Danielle was going to get the red card, and I think it was
Yeah.
deserved, because you can't
Deserved.
cleat
No.
like that. That's just reckless.
No.
But any other things about the referee? I mean, I know you kind of looked at him, see what kind of how he refs in these big matches. But again,
Yeah.
I think it's all across the whole board. It's like, I just wish the players had a little bit more respect for the ref, because again, when the red card came in, all the players charge him, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you guys didn't see the play. He went to VAR. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't
Yeah.
argue with VAR, really. Like, you
Yeah.
saw the replay. So what did you think about Jesus Gil's refereeing performance? And again, I just think this is just a La Liga thing, not so much that he favors Real Madrid and he's giving these bad calls.
Yeah. Well, a couple things. Let's on your Xavi comment. Normally, I would agree with you. And Belichick knows he doesn't have to argue with the ref. He'll just turn that team up a notch, and whatever the refs try to do, he'll overcome it with their play on the field. We're not there yet. Xavi couldn't do it. He can't stay calm and collected, because traditionally, we lose that intensity. We've been, as Xavi has come in back to that tempo and that intensity, our intensity was super low. Traditionally, if things start to get crazy and out of control like that, traditionally, in the last 2, 3, 4 years, this team has folded and collapsed, and we would lose a game. Okay. The intensity is starting to grow. We are starting to, and I think it's grit and intensity. We are starting to build that up. And sometimes I've seen it, and sometimes I respect when a coach does it, when a coach gets fiery and the players see that and they feed off of what their coach is doing and they continue to fight. Now, today, they continued to fight. They did not back down from the craziness that was going on. There were fouls. It was getting out of control. It was getting out of hand. Normally, Barcelona is a softer team, so they normally will get pushed around. And today they didn't. Now, whether that was because they saw the cards flying onto the sideline to the coaches or not, that I can't say. But all I do know is the team responded, and we held on, and we controlled that remaining 20 to 15, 20 minutes and came out with the W. So normally I would say, I don't like that. I don't like when the coaches are chirping. You're right. They help, sometimes it'll help a team lose the focus of what's going on, what's important. But today, I think it was such an intense match. We needed that feistiness. We needed that fire to push the team all the way through the end to the 96 minutes that they had to play, 96 plus minutes that we had to play. And so today for me, it was important. And I think it was what he had to do. That's my thought.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. I just always equate it to, like, let's say business. Like, could you imagine if you just, like, if you were in charge of a team and you just started flying out the handle like that? Like, I know it's different. I know that it's different. I'm aware of this, but to me, I just always not respect more, but I just think there's something to it, because everyone can yell. Like, everyone's passionate. Everyone's a former player. Like, I get that. But it's kind of one of those things. The referee is completely out of your control.
That's right.
That is, for good or for bad, right? For good or as many bad calls as we think we've had just as many good calls for us
Yeah.
in our
Yeah.
favor, PSG match, like just come on, let's be
Yeah.
honest here. We've had some luck and it goes both ways, but I don't know. I always, the referees, like I said, I just think there just needs to be more accountability from La Liga to allow
Yeah.
these referees so that we can ask these referees, what were you thinking on this? I don't think what's in the wrong with that? I don't think,
Yeah.
but like in a respectful way, like maybe have it for 5 to 10 minutes where they have
Yeah.
discussion or questions answering, and we can actually ask these questions instead of thinking what they thought and whatever. I just think
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
wasted energy. Let's focus on the
No,
defense,
normally
okay,
it
rather
is.
than the refs.
Yeah. Normally it is, but like I said, I liked it because he was hopefully he was stoking the fire. The players saw it because they were playing hard. They were already playing hard, but it just seemed like to me they turned it up another notch. The defense, clamped down, and it was a really sloppy game at that point in time anyway, right? Like I had put in the WhatsApp group, this is when we get into trouble. We were not keeping possession. Terse, we would shot on goal. Tersagan would get it. He'd play kickball, kick it deep. I think I counted the percentage. The percentage was 36% of the time when Tersagan kept it deep did we keep possession. So almost 7 out of 10 times when he would kick it, we were losing possession. We weren't hanging on to it. And traditionally, that's when I said we get into trouble when they score on us because our team, is obviously built upon having possession. So again, going back to it, I think that it helped them, stay intense and clamp down and not lose the defensive, position that they had.
What a segue. It's like you read the show notes. I mean,
Yeah.
wow. Because I mean that's the last thing I want to talk about is just finishing these games off with this thing. I mean, we put we were talking, it's another roller coaster, right? Yes, we were up 4-1 at one point, but it did not feel that way. And again, I think it just has to do with the lack of the finishing possession, right? Remember, as we talked about with the attack, there's a possession for attack where we're looking to be more direct and to go for goal. But then with the last 8 minutes of a match, we have to finish these games off with clear, precise possession. And this goes again with the concentration, because how many times did the back line not have an outlet? It was driving me crazy, Troy. It's like, run back and help, swivel, run, help. And how many times did we have to clear the ball? And if it's not 4-2, let's say if it was 4-3, all of a sudden we're biting our nails even further, because it's this idea that it's something that we were so lucky to have. Because it's one of the hardest things to do in football is to possess the ball when the other team needs to score, right? And we were able to do that, obviously, with Pep and the teams like this, to do it with our eyes closed, especially having Messi, because he could just hold the ball and direct it. But now we really have to make an effort. And especially in these matches, when we play against Napoli, for example, these are going to come crucial times. And to me, Troy, one of the things I'm still very, very nervous about is De Jong's performance, because today, again, he had glimpses here, silly fouls. Where's his technical ability to hold the ball? Where's his decision-making come to the ball? And which is not there, especially in the last 10 minutes of the match.
Yeah. Yeah. 2 times today, I thought, oh God, here we go again. Their first goal, here we go again. And then after Suarez scored and it was 4-2, again, we had lost all possession. We were lost. It was becoming a sloppy game. Like I said, that's not in our favor. And I thought, oh my God, here we go again. If they score again, get it to 4-3, traditionally we break. We don't have that grit and determination. We break. And how many games have we lost, in the last 10 or 15 minutes? A lot. And again, in this new era that we have. So yeah, and again, I put in our notes, it kind of seems, and this could just be complete coincidence, but it seems like we struggle for those first 5 to 10 minutes after that first set of subs come in. I don't know if it's because we have shifted so many players around to so many positions that they just need that time to blend and understand each other. It could be something simple like that, or it could be a little bit more deep on the subs that we're bringing in and the timing that we're bringing them in. But we always struggle. We always start to lose possession there. We always have a segment of bad passes. They're usually right in the midfield. Then it forces everybody back. And it's what you're talking about there. How many times? I mean, there's 3 or 4 times we passed it, up to Aubameyang, and nobody was there with them because everybody had been pushed so far back in defense because we couldn't hang on to the darn ball. So, yes, something that's a time period there in these games at 60 to 65 minutes to that 75th, 80th minute. There's a time period there where we still need a lot of work, and that goes into closing those games out. I was super nervous. It was 4-2, and like you said, to me, it felt like it was 2-2. It really did. I felt like one more goal from them, and we are going to lose this game. We cannot allow this to happen. And I was actually really interested to see. Again, I mentioned it like 4 or 5 times in this podcast already. That grit and determination. I feel like it's being built. Obviously you have young kids that have been playing for us, and that's something that you have to grow into. Doesn't matter if you're Pedri or Ansu or Gavi with all the talent in the world. You don't come with grit and determination. Those are things that you have to learn to do those for 90 minutes. And in this case, 96 plus minutes or whatever. So I feel like it's getting longer into the game that we have that built up. But obviously today I was still super nervous, and I'm assuming there was a time period where the fans were a little bit quieter, when Suarez did that, and they're like, I think the rest of them were all probably thinking the same thing, like, oh my God, here we go, like here we, and then I did see some of the players. Again, this was when all that chaos was going on. I did see some of our players going, facing the crowd and raising their arms up, trying to get the crowd pumped up, and we came back and we held our ground. But yeah, we have to get better, and I think we are, and I think that's part of Xavi's game plan of getting us to where we close those games out, where it's solid. Those subs come in, and instead of us backpedaling when those subs come in, those subs should be coming in, and we should be pushing forward again. Like we should, with some of the players that we have, Aubameyang, we could have brought in Dembele. If those are 2 subs that we're going to be using, then there's absolutely no reason that we would not be full speed ahead, pedal to the metal, pushing forward and letting those 2 use the legs that they have and making a difference where we are not back on a defensive position, holding on for dear life. You know what I mean? Like it's been for this year and a good part of last year. So we'll see.
Yeah. Like you said, like maybe, in the last 10 minutes is go to like a 4-4-2 and just put Aubameyang and Dembele as a 2 forwards as a quick release, and then you have 4 midfielders. I don't know. These are things in my mind when I was thinking about the match just now, just how you said the substitutes. In my mind, I felt like Xavi did do like 3 substitutes at the same time, but he didn't. He did one with Adama and Pierre at the 60th. The following one was 5 minutes later. Obviously, the Dani Alves red card threw off a lot of things because obviously we were a man down, and then we had to go with Serginho Dest on that. Yeah. But again, I'm always kind of the 2 things when I think of substitutes, it's you have to give the player time to assimilate to the game, because it's always you never want to put them in the 89th minute, right? As we always talk. But the other thing too is I think the funnel system, right? Like 1 and then the next one, because you don't want to just go 4 at the same time. It's like, oh my God, it's another team. What's going on? Yeah. But like you said, I think these are, obviously growing pains is what it is. You're learning how to win. This is always like the toughest thing in any sport, right? Yeah. In basketball, you talk about the 2-minute offense. It's like making crucial shots, right, to close out the game. In football, you're talking about running down the ball, getting first downs, and just running that clock out. In football, you are talking about closing out possession and not giving the team opportunities to get that lucky goal, especially when you're up, 1 goal. And so I think we are getting a little bit better, but again, man, I'm really nervous about De Jong, Troy. I'm really nervous because there was moments today where I was looking for him and I didn't find him because he was just not there, not making the plays. And I don't know if it's just the positioning, confidence, injury. Like, I don't know what's going on with him because in a match today, especially how it was physical, like when he made that silly tackle for the yellow card, you're just like, why? There's no reward in that tackle, right? And those are the things is like, and that's the thing is like, I don't know, because he's lacking so much confidence that he's making these, I don't want to say dumb plays, but just plays that are out of the ordinary for him, because I
Yeah.
figure when I think of DeYoung, I think of him as a very clever, smart player, thinking 2 steps ahead in this type of thing. So I don't know, man. I'm really nervous because it's always going back to Busquets as well. Like Busquets
Yeah.
is still leading the team in minutes. That's not going away anywhere soon. And that's
Yeah.
the thing is like, yeah, the players, like we said, overall, PK Alba, the older statesman, played well today, like as an overall arching thing. But I'm curious to see now if we can actually string some consistency before we start really getting really excited about this team and this part of the season.
Yeah, DeYoung, I don't know what's going to be honest. I don't know what's going on with him. I had actually had questioned that, once Koeman had been released, whether it was an issue with that. You would think that a player would be over that by now. And again, you come off of a time period here where, he didn't leave. I don't think he, this break that they had, I think he stayed in Barcelona, so I'm not sure if he even left. So it's like, and they were working the team, the players that were majority of players were still in town. They didn't go on international break for their team. So you had a good chunk of time for that team to be working together. And you would think that a player of his stature, whatever issues he had going on with confidence in that 2-week time period of not having any pressure on him for a game, that the confidence levels would, come back up, right? But you're right. I mean, it's like a combo. It's like a lot of times he's in a bad position. A lot of times he gets the ball and he's got guys on him already. You know what I mean? And a lot of times he has his back to our net. And it's like, how do you know who's coming on you when you have your back to the defense? And so he's not even able to even do anything because they'll have a defender or 2 defenders on him. But that's something that he needs to learn spacing. So I might have to go back and look at some of the games that he played for Ajax or when he first came here. If he was putting himself in these positions and he just got lucky and was able to get himself out of there. But if you go back and watch this game, a lot of times he put himself, when he was receiving these passes, he was already in a bad position. Like he didn't space himself out from the defenders whatsoever, but he also has bad body positioning. Like I said, he's got his back to the defense. So you don't even know what's going on behind him. So, and then he's sliding around all over the place. Like he tried like 3 or 4 slide tackles. And I'm just thinking, man, that's just not a good thing to be doing because, he obviously got caught on the one. He almost got caught on another. He probably could have got carded on another. But he's been doing this for multiple games now where he's like leaving his feet and going on these slide tackles. And they're not very smart ones. He's not very successful in doing this. And so I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see if Xavi can do anything with him. Xavi has backed him and said that he's a vital, component to this team. So he's got the confidence of his coach. I don't know though. I mean, there's other clubs, big clubs that want him that, you've heard whispers or rumors of them saying that, they were going to try to make an offer on him, this summer or whatever. So Barcelona's going to have to make a decision. Especially with the fiscal management that we have going on, they're going to have to make a decision maybe on him come the summer if things don't get better. I hope they do. I think he can be a great player. I think he's been used, out of his best position almost the whole entire time he's been here. But other players have as well, and they've been a much better than him. Like Gavi being on the left wing today. Okay, he still made an impact in the game. Torres, he might not have scored, being that number 9 might not be his best position. But for me, he was all over the place. Again, forcing that defense to not be stationary and have to, continuously watch where he's at. Again, if you can keep that defense busy, then to me, you're at least, making it so they're focusing on you and not focusing on generating that counterattack, which we absolutely must not allow. And I don't think nobody's worried about what he's doing whatsoever. So again, it's a mystery to me. Hopefully they crack that mystery and figure it out because I think he's phenomenal. We've seen how talented he is. I'm super worried that he's going down the same pathway as Coutinho, as Griezmann, as Dembele, supposedly world-class players, but for whatever reason cannot make it here. They just cannot. Either they don't fit in or what. I don't know what it is. It's like the Barcelona mystery or whatever, but it happens.
Yeah, I mean, because if you think about it, imagine if we had Frankie at a 20% higher level playing, then all of a sudden that elevates the whole midfield at another level, right? If he can actually possess and make the correct passes. Yeah, so imagine if, Frankie's playing like at a 20% clip higher, then, it elevates the midfield even further. And I also think, obviously, taking Pedri out of the match too as well. Earlier, obviously, he's coming back from injury, so we're not trying to rush him because we don't want the same thing to happen with Ansu and so forth. So, obviously, the game dictated certain things, but also it's the midfield, it's usually our crown jewel. And I'm really curious to see how De Jong, because, as you said, whenever you look at those Ajax highlights, you're like, where is that guy? I want that guy where he is driving the attack, making defensive plays, and just going. Like, I feel like he's still thinking before he's playing, right? I still feel like he's just not playing so naturally. Well, I think, overall, I have to say, Troy, this is one of the first time in a long time where the match, lived up to the billing, where it was like exciting. It felt like a big game and so forth. I was worried because of the 4:15 vaunted siesta time, but obviously, with Barcelona's result here, they're obviously back in fourth place. Yes. I'm excited to see if we can actually string some consistency, because I can't remember the last time where we actually scored this amount of goals, and I really feel positive about the things going forward. Obviously, the next match is the Derby against Espanyol on February 13th on Sunday at 9:00. But what are your last impression of this match going forward? What are you going to be looking for in the next match for Espanyol?
Yeah, I just continue. I want to see if they continue to grow, and again, can continue to hold that intensity throughout the whole entire game, that grit and determination that I've been talking about. I think they will. I don't think it's going on a limb saying that they will. I think we're going to go on a string of games here that we'll put up, that will get points. I think that this team is primed to make up some ground. At the end of the season, I don't think we'll catch Real Madrid, but I think that we'll definitely be fighting for second. That's after seeing today, and I know it's a big win and everyone's riding a high right now, but one of the things that I really, like I talked about, I wanted to see for is, did this team, and are they taking in what Xavi is teaching them, and are they applying it on the field? And today, the answer was resounding absolutely, right? And, I always watch coaches, and there's always a big difference in breaks. Breaks like this can always tell you if somebody is a good coach or a bad coach. And traditionally, the good coaches use these breaks. They prepare their teams, obviously, for that upcoming game, and then for a good stretch of games. And it's usually how they play in that first game kind of determines what they're going to be doing for the moving forward. And I expect that we'll see more of what we saw today for the coming weeks, for the coming months. Obviously, we're still a young team. There's going to be some hiccups in there where we'll draw some games where we shouldn't have. But I think almost what we saw like last year at this time, I think Barca will go on a good streak of games here, and I think the fans will be pumped about it, and our podcast group and WhatsApp group will certainly be really pumped about it going into May, our event. So.
I think that's a good point. And I just want to see consistency. And that's a really great point you made, coming out of breaks, right? Those times where you can really manage the team, find weaknesses. And I felt like Xavi did a great job with the team exploiting some things, using Adama. And I think, there is definitely some positivity. I mean, I'm just reading what everyone's on Twitter is just like blowing up right now. Yeah. And again, it just shows just, how desperate we were just to hold on to something positive, looking at the team, right? Just like we needed goals. We haven't seen any goals. Like we just haven't seen any goals. And to see this kind of this goal barrage, especially against Atletico, was something else. So again, I'm excited to see what happens. This is going to be a busy gauntlet of games, and
Yep.
again, I just need to see a little bit more consistency with one or the other, right? Either defensively or
Yeah.
attacking, and I think we
Yeah.
can grab onto that. Like you said, it's a young team, so we'll continue to watch. Well, Troy, thanks for joining me as always, and we'll talk soon.
Talk to you later.